My name's Janalee Tobias. I was born in Idaho Falls, Idaho, and raised in a small farming community. I'm the youngest of 7 kids. Not very many people have the luxury of going back to their homes where their parents, both sets of parents in different states where they were raised, and have it be virtually unchanged for over 100 years. But if a developer comes to town, they'd probably shoot him because they just want to keep their open space and their farms and enjoy the beauty. I was interviewed a few years ago and they were doing a story on getting the legislation passed for the slap law, and at that time there were some other women that had been sued down in Provo, and some other women in Draper and around the state. All these women had been sued by male developers. Stay-at-home moms, like, oh, I'm going to be tough. I'm going to sue a stay-at-home mom. They don't make any money. Their husbands will make them quit, which Steve didn't, which he's a prince for that. These people are suing mothers. Yeah. They're mother suers. Is that libelous? The United States of America might be the only country where I would have even had a chance at justice, being my social status and economic status compared to the developers who sued me. 2 stay-at-home moms would never have a chance against powerful millionaire developers. So I love this country. I'm so proud to be an American, because I know that you can eventually get justice, and there are honest people still that will listen. Well, I use my mouth more than my music, I guess. There you go. So I'll try and play a classical song here. With the discretionary time that I have, I've dedicated myself to working for causes and things that I believe in and try to make some effective change in policy.
It's Thursday afternoon in South Jordan, and 7th grader Janalee Tobias is about to go home and dig into a mountain of homework.
Probably 2-3 hours.
Her mom says it's a nightly routine.
I'm so sick of homework.
And she says it's taking a toll.
You know a word that I never knew when I was a kid, and that was the word stress.
Guns save lives! Guns save lives!
Chanting "Guns Save Lives," hundreds of women, supported by husbands and children, showed up for today's rally at Utah's state capitol, supporting the right to bear arms in order to protect themselves and their families.
Are you going to call 911? Or are you going to reach for your 9mm if someone's trying to kill you?
I heard about the Million Mom March and I said, wait a second. Under the name of motherhood, they're not speaking for me.
Tobias is a married mother of 2 who is passionate on the subject of gun ownership. And today, she was not alone.
If a criminal comes into my personal space, I want to be able to with the same force that he applies to me, apply it back.
On both sides of the issue, women have come to the forefront, and we have 2 women leaders in this issue. On my left, Ms. Rebecca Oyer. On my right, sitting here amid all this stuff, is Janalee Tobias, a pistol-packing mama, one of the leaders of Women Against Gun Control here in Utah.
The #1 thing we want is licensing and registration of all handguns.
What's wrong with that?
I think it's wrong for them to represent that all mothers think like that, because we don't. And furthermore, Rod, we're tired of them exploiting children to push their fanatical, radical, liberal, anti-gun agenda.
The Million Mom March Against Gun Violence. You have a chart here you want to show us, Ms. Oyer.
Yes, I'd just like to show the children who have been killed or injured with a gun in Utah from 1991 to 1999.
Bikes, buckets, and bathtubs kill more people than kids. And for every one of those names, I can show you 10 kids' lives that have been saved because their mother has had a gun to protect them.
Anti-light rail protesters were the vocal majority.
That train goes nowhere that I want to go, and it comes from nowhere where I'm at.
We said no! We said no!
Mayor Dee Corradini decided discretion was the better part of valor and made tracks as soon as the track's groundbreaking was over.
Okay, let's go.
And even though they couldn't stop the ceremony, protesters say they were glad to at least give the mayor an earful. In Salt Lake City, Scott McCain, Fox 13 News.
3 counties, Weber, Davis, and Salt Lake, they'll all be voting for or against a quarter-cent sales tax hike. Some people are calling it a trax tax because light rail service in Salt Lake County would likely be expanded if this tax hike is approved.
We need to draw a line in the sand, no more taxes.
I graduated from Brigham Young University, and when I had children, I knew that I'd be a stay-at-home mom, because this is something I always wanted to do. Be able to stay home with my kids, because they grow up so fast.
Stephanie, you're doing a report on baking powder.
My kids are straight A's. I'm really fortunate that way. They have their hobbies are music and dance. They excel in them, but I'm most proud of them because they've gotten quite a bit of courage. They've already been in People magazine and on TV a few times for speaking out for things that they believe in.
Everything's got. Where's some more M&Ms, guys?
They're all gone.
Laura, where's the sack of M&Ms?
Today's General Conference Day. It's like a little vacation for Mormons because we get to watch church on TV. One of the basic beliefs of Mormons is that we decided that we wanted to come here because we believed in freedom, and that was Jesus' plan, to give us freedom, and the devil's plan was to force us to do good. People should be able to make their own choices, and if they're good, it's because they choose to and not because they're forced. And now I'm going to turn my mix on. Well, I'll say one thing though. So I think that's a lot like oppressive government, big government and oppressive government, is that they don't give you personal choice, and they make you do things you don't have any choices. They make you worship who the people in power want you to worship. They choose your education, where you work, and especially oppressive to women. Any other country, I'd be executed by now for all of the things that I've fought for. I've always been a stand-up for, against power. I hate it when people try to tell me what I should do. I hate it when people take money that they don't earn.
Matter number one, it's not for everybody's life to take things that don't belong to you. Our gun rights and our guns.
Thank you.
Belong to us. Some very nice gentlemen, by the name of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and a lot of other very incredibly wonderful men and women gave these rights to us. You can't have them.
I was a Republican state delegate, and I went to the convention, and people spent like millions of dollars that year on campaigns. So Joe Cannon, I believe, spent $6 million. Senator Bennett spent $3 million on his campaign. Governor Leavitt was running for governor, and all these people were spending so much money.
I'm not sure just what it's gonna take to save a man or a church or a nation. This one thing I know, when it all burns away, every knee's gonna bow on a judgment day. The definition of wrong is wrong, the meaning of right is right. Well, I don't care how much you spend, it's as different as day and night. Justify what you can and hide what you can't. Well, don't miss a step and continue the dance. The mirrors are filled with smoke with this costume ball.
And what they do in Utah, when you run for office, you try to basically buy your vote with the delegate. So the candidates like to woo the delegates to get their vote. So it's really fun if a person that has a lot of money runs for office, because
You get invited to a lot of free dinners, and you just keep going to dinners, and you just say, you know what, I haven't made my mind up yet. Guess I'll have to go to a few more of your free dinners, make my mind up. The person I ended up voting for senator, I guess it'll be public now, a guy by the name of Ted Stewart. He only spent probably a few thousand, but I liked what he had to say. And so, despite eating everybody else's free food and going to all their parties, I listened to him. Typical of his campaign at the convention that day, he served homemade bread and butter with honey. That's like down home America. The other candidates were giving out, they were serving dinner, they served breakfast, lunch, dinner. They were giving out free boxes of Mrs. Fields cookies. One of the candidates for governor had an elephant there. Joe Cannon had a balloon. I mean, they just wined and dined, and what I heard up there, I didn't hear anybody talking about tax cuts. Taxation really does harm society, because the more people are taxed, the more burdened they are, they have less money to go spend on the economy. Let me tell you how I actually got involved in politics. I saw a flyer pasted on in the laundromat, and it said, you can go to your neighborhood caucus meeting, get elected to be a delegate. And since I had held some elected offices in high school, I thought, well, that sounds kind of fun. Being involved in a political campaign is really intoxicating. It's really fun to be part of something so big, and to think that you could help elect somebody that could have effect on public policy. National Republicans want to make sure that that Republicans win in the state, so they can control Congress, so that they can get the laws they want passed. So, in order to win, you have to have money. That's just the way. Money is the mother's milk of politics, so you have to have money. In today's meeting for the Central Committee of the Republican Party, the grassroots got their fannies kicked. It's typical. The people in power, everything benefits them. The more they can stop grassroots people from being involved, the more power and money and glory and gain they get.
I would never try to stop one of my political opponents or somebody that doesn't believe the same way I believe from speaking out. It just means that I have to go out and fight harder than they can to beat them. And so a lot of the same people that I've worked with on some issues, I've had to go and fight them on other issues. And I just have to go out and get more people so that we outpower those guys. I guess miraculous aspect of being an activist is the people that come to support you that you have no idea who they are. I remember the first political meeting I went to. I owe Dee Dee Cordini. She's the former mayor of Salt Lake City, and I used to get so mad at all the stupid things that she'd do. She kind of motivated me into action. I think it was my first city council meeting I ever went to. I made a whole bunch of signs, and they were on sticks. And so I had my signs in there, and security came up, and they tried to take away my signs. And these people just stood up right behind me. I didn't even know who they were. They said, "Hey, you can't take her signs away." And they said, "Well, they can't be on sticks." And they said, "Okay, we'll take the sticks off, because I guess sticks are a weapon. You know, watch out for sticks." We had so many people turn out for that protest, and then they said, "You can't voice your opinion against light rail, because that's already been voted on." So I thought, okay, if I can't speak my opinion, I'll sing it. So I sang, and it was all over the news. I believe that the majority of people are good people. The government keeps us divided, because the more people are divided, then they stay in power. But if they can keep us divided on issues, then our power is fractured. I'm wondering, you know, when I get ready to go back in the workforce, if I don't start my own company, if people would say, "Oh, she's that radical gun rights activist, you know, I better not hire her." I mean, it's a chance you take. We have women against gun control chapters in countries where guns are illegal, which is really fun. It's not illegal to talk about the right to own a gun,